We thought that it would be smart to just kind of bring you up to speed on what the Olli Foundation's been doing in all this time as things are transitioning to NFIT. It's been kind of a hard time in some ways for some of our community to understand what's going on, and it's a big change. Change isn't easy, and it also has an impact on people's day-to-day lives. So we just wanted to tell you a little bit about Olli Foundation and then how we've been involved in trying to bring the stakeholders together so that there's discussion and conversation and hopefully good outcome. So I think I have some slides, not anything major, and this is very quick, should be painless, hopefully for all of us, including me. So the Olli Foundation's been, well, I've been introduced, so I'm the Director of Community Engagement and kind of by default have rolled into this position of trying to keep abreast of what's going on with NFIT. Oh, I guess I'm in control here, sorry. I'm usually behind the scenes, so this is new for me. Okay, so the Olli Foundation was founded in 1983 by Dr. Lynn Howard and her patient, Clarence Oley Oldenburg. Many of you already know this, some of you don't. The Olli Foundation strives to enrich the lives of patients dependent on home enteral and parenteral nutrition. So we have a dual purpose in some ways. In some ways, a lot of the interests overlap, and in other ways, they're very different. We pursue this through education, advocacy, and networking. We're also a resource for the consumers' families, clinicians, industry representatives, and other interested parties. So there are a lot of interests rolled together in the Olli Foundation. I wanted to say that in this mission statement, it's not specific, but we represent a really wide range of diagnoses. Our patients are really diverse and all have very individualized needs, which is really something that needs to be taken into account when you make changes of this scope. So the Misconnections, as Cynthia was saying, the stated goal of ISO 80369-3, which is the standard that is driving the change to NFIT, is to increase safety and prevent misconnections, reduce the chances of a misconnection. Can't say it's going to prevent it. Misconnections affect all of our members. They affect parenteral as well as enteral. In fact, in some ways, maybe parenteral more because they are at risk for having a misconnection. We do believe that the goal of the NFIT and the transition is to create a safer situation without creating unintentional negative consequences. And I guess that's part of what the dialogue has become, is how to make it a positive change. This is a statement that was developed with the approval of our board. This is pretty much our stand on things. And I'm just going to read it out loud. It's the safety and well-being of all nutrition support consumers, that's enteral and parenteral, is at the forefront of all that Olli does. Olli is aware of several issues and concerns surrounding this change, which is partly why we're all here. And we are committed to facilitating open dialogue between consumers, members of industries, and all of the stakeholders in essence. And we applaud the effort to reduce tubing misconnections, which is the stated goal behind this initiative. So this is our formal position. I think it says it all. It's not simple, but it says it all. This is how we see the stakeholders. There are a lot of other organizations, the Olli Foundation and Amy and Aspen and the Institute for Safe Medicine Practices, and I think I've got that right. As well as the consumers and caregivers, clinicians, representatives of home care companies, of industry, infusion providers, the FDA. There's a lot of parties that need to come together to make this happen and to make it successful. There's hospitals, there's the home care companies, as stated. It's a very complicated thing. And these are some of the things we've done in the attempt to bring stakeholders together. So tube feeding device manufacturers have been invited to the Olli Foundation conferences since we started having the conferences. And GEDS has been exhibiting and talking to consumers for the past 3 conferences at least. GEDSA is the Global Enteral Device Supplier Association, thank you. Represents a group of the manufacturers, not all of the manufacturers, but a significant amount of them. And they've been bringing the prototypes to the Oley conference, to the patient, and there've been hands-on opportunities for the consumers to see what's coming. We've actually had our tube feeding workshops, which is this session where they've been manufacturers lined up at tables with their prototypes out, and consumers could try them, and manufacturers got feedback on their products. And a lot of the manufacturers actually had not only their sales force here, but they also had their product development force here and engineers to see what the needs were. So our goal has been to facilitate that dialogue and to try to make things move in a productive direction. We did a survey to our Oley members to see how they felt about NFIT as it was being proposed. It helped us to develop some agenda for a summit that we held in Atlanta. At the summit, we did, I'm supposed to do 5 minutes, I have no idea. I'm okay. At the summit in Atlanta, we had a morning session where we brought the consumers and industry together. We actually had consumers run through their protocol or their regimen. Some of them had blenders. We had Vitamix kindly donated a blender for us, and we had a lot of consumers there, a fair amount of consumers, and they did what they actually did. And manufacturers were very interested in what they did and asked questions about what they did and how they did it and what size tube they had and what their device was, so that they could kind of put all of that information together. We had blenderized diet there. We had some display of how people vent or decompress. And I can't remember some of the other issues we talked about, but it's actually on YouTube, and it's still there on our Oley YouTube channel. Not the morning session, but the afternoon session, which is FDA was there. One of the heads of medical devices, Scott Colburn, was there, and other representatives. GEDSA was there, manufacturers were there, and consumers were there, and it was really a very productive dialogue. And that's what's on YouTube, that afternoon session. And then we also have been instrumental in helping to distribute some surveys, two surveys that Mayo has done, and Mayo will be, I don't know if Dr. Mundi will be discussing some of the results, or he will after me. And then Mayo and FDA have been doing research for the past 2 years, last year and this year, and we've been kind of trying to help with bringing, when they ask for recipes, we have solicited our membership to send us those recipes. And I know that FDA has followed up with some of those where people have really gotten back to us with exactly what kind of tube they have, how long it takes them to administer their diet. And so it's been a really productive conversation where we've been able to bring that information to the parties that are involved that are interested in gathering that information. Oley and the Feeding Tube Awareness Foundation helped coordinate a listening session in May 22nd, for FDA staff. FDA staff was able to ask questions of about 10 consumers who went to Silver Springs and sat with the FDA and answered questions and talked about what they do. We feel it's our responsibility to continue to inform the community of the changes and the to keep everybody up to date on it. It's a moving target. We keep trying to. We put it in the newsletter, and sometimes by the time the newsletter's in print, it's a little different. But we just keep trying to put all the information out there. So we have it in our newsletters. We have Mayo's been presenting at both our conference and at the American Society for Parenteral and Enteral Nutrition conferences. Today we have Mayo and FDA presenting their research, and there are updates on our website at that link. And we try to encourage an ongoing conversation with the stakeholders. So with that, we segue into Dr. Mundi's talk on the research from Mayo. Thank you.